Investment has always had a reputation as something that is quite helpful for the growth of companies or agencies, especially for startups. A good investment itself could be the biggest reasons on behind the success of some companies. Hence, the term angel investor is something that is quite popular amongst the business world. We view it as something that is reliable rather than something that is actually hindering the market. But the problems that we find the most in today's modern society is that with the growth of investment itself and many of its methods of investing, some could actually bring more harm than good, mainly because how unpredictable it is and how too accessible it could be. And even to the people who doesn't have much knowledge regarding it or doesn't have any experience in those things or investment, and it could actually just brings an investment itself or meme investing in this context is actually something that could be damaging towards the society and the environment. So, ladies and gentlemen, in today's debate, we'll be taking a deeper dive on why, from our side, house we believe that meme investing is something that is actually more harmful rather than good. So first, let's look at what meme investing is. So meme investing became a new way of investing in this 21st century in which it became quite popular, especially around younger generation who use more social media in their everyday life. And the rise of social media, meme and investment itself became the reason on why such things became quite popular among the society. And it gave many kinds of impacts towards the society itself, mostly focused on the investment side. But why from our side the house believe that it is actually harmful is because first, it is based on social media in which it is very unpredictable. And then second, it is based on social media phenomenon or format in which it is quite unreliable because it is just too widely accessible. And then third is because it is actually something that could be harming towards the society and then actually towards the environment itself. So before we moving on to our arguments, I would first like to stand out our model and mechanism. First is we're going to be only talking about investment that is actually mainly centered around or focused around social media itself. So we're not going to be talking about investment that could be focused on social media, but mostly focused on their conventional way of investing. But we'll be talking about investment that exists because of social media, and its existence is mainly happening because social media presents itself. And then next, the harms that is meant in this in the motion would just not be a harm that is meant in just one way, but it is the way of harms that not only going to the market perhaps or need the society, but also going to the other way around. So the market for the market or society in this context. So moving on to my argument. First, we believe that the accessibility of it is just too wide, or the accessibility of meme investing itself is just something that is too wide. Because first, it would just initiate a trend rather than a long life reliable way of investing. Because trend itself is something that is very harmful from our side for house. We believe that trend itself could be very harmful because trend itself could just die out in a very random spare of time. It could die out in days, it could die out in weeks, it could die out in months. We can't predict on when it will just be let out by society because of course society itself decides on whether a trend is becoming something that is should be left out or whether it is just not relevant anymore, because and it is decided on the way of thinking of the society itself or society itself ways of thinking, and we can't really decide on direction that trend is going because we don't really know how the society will behave, how the society will act, and how the society will just have these thoughts on why this trend should be left out. And we can't really know how it will actually be in the future. And then trend itself is just something that's too jumping. In this era, there can never be just one trend that is existing currently. There's just too many trends that is existing in this world, and we can't control all of them. And there's just too many things that we can that we there is just too many things, and we cannot focus on all of them. And it is just something that is very much unreliable and unpredictable, and it is something that is very much that is too much for us to control, very too much for us to look at because it is just something that will just be very harmful to us because it will just drain our energy a lot to look at those trends because there's just too many trends. And then next, people with little to no knowledge we just jump it without knowing the risk because they know it from trends because they think that it could make them some money, it could make them it could be beneficial for them without knowing that they could be put in a dangerous situation because perhaps they could lose some money and they could also lose some other things as well in their life because they are not good at on it. And then next, it creates disruptions toward the market in general because of course if people just jump into many on it and people just taking their chances too many on it. Like for example, the case of NFT in Indonesia, in which Ghazali made it becoming something that is very popular. It creates a high volume trading and disrupting the market on its core, and just disrupting the market in general, because it is something that is just to making it something that is just too accessible, especially for people who doesn't understand about meme investing and investing in general. And then second is because social media is something that is unpredictable. So such little things could just change on how the market flow go in social media, like big influencers or like big influencers, and then or just some certain tragedy occurring. It could just change on how social media behave, and how meme investing goes, or how investment goes in certain direction. So we can't really predict on how it goes, because things like that just happens a lot in these days, and we can't really predict on how certain things would just happen, because it is out of our control. And then it just makes people too scared of losing their money, instead of focusing on what they can do, because they would just be too they would just look at news and watching out or some certain things, instead of focusing on what they could do or what they could invest in. And it would just make people to focus on things that they cannot control, rather than focusing on things that they could actually control. So it makes them much more pessimistic rather than optimistic, which is just very harming and very bad for the society itself. And then the third and last reason is because it will consume too many resources, actually, because of course it needs a big or storage or massive servers to keep it there. And server itself is something that just very expensive, and it needs many resources to invest for servers, and also for finding admins for servers. And servers itself consume massive electricity, and it could also leave many waste for the environment. And so it could actually just damage the environment a lot, because if people just focus too much on meme investing, and they focus too much on investing on servers, in which it costs a lot of money, and then a server itself could just leave massive waste for the environment. It could just be damaging for the environment. So this would just makes the society itself be very harmful, because first the environment itself is already damaged, and then the society itself is already damaged on the way of people thinking, and just the investment world itself is already damaged. So that's why from our side of the house we are proud to propose. Thank you.